Hello developers and welcome to the world of Yellowfin. Today we're going to be diving into why and how to embed the Yellowfin API. Now this video is very much here for developers. If you're not a developer, that's fine, you can still watch, but this is really a technical overview of some of the key concepts that you're going to be using when integrating the Yellowfin API to bring very robust and market-leading business analytics capabilities into existing product workflows. So as we get started here, there's two things that I think are worth having a quick look at as you start on this journey. Firstly, if you're building this as an ISV, as an independent software vendor, where you're selling your solution into individual markets, where you may have a best-in-breed product that you're leading the market within, I would definitely have a look at the self-service BI and how and why ISVs use Yellowfin and how it can boost your ROI and also impact your customers. Now this is a very, very powerful story to hear because it helps you understand what you should be doing with your product as you build and integrate Yellowfin. There's some real good practice and tips within that blog post, so definitely worth a quick read. Secondly, regardless of who you are, if you're trying to integrate BI into your workflows, if it's for internal use or if you're selling it to other people, then 100% watch the video of Yellowfin embedding analytics workflow for product teams. This is a great overview of some of the capabilities of Yellowfin to give you a flavour of what you can actually expect from the BI engine in its entirety, and also helps point you to some of the key things that you might want to kind of consider when trying to bring and embed BI into your existing product and workflows. It's about 15-20 minutes, so it's not a heavy time drag, but it's one that's really worth a few minutes of your time up front. So we're now at the point that we understand a little bit about what a BI platform is. Let's have a look at how we can use it and embed it into our applications. Now, if you're a bit like me, you've got two questions. How do I integrate? And how do I get an example of the application so I can play with it and make sure my integration is working? So let's start off with the API. There's 3 different APIs that allow you to cover a wide range of different use cases. Depending on what you need to do and depending on who needs to do it, you can use the JavaScript API, the REST API, or the SOAP API. Now, you don't need to use all of them. You can just use one, and you can use multiple at the same time. It doesn't really matter. The key thing here is that it gives you access into Yellowfin to call for features and functionality that you want to be able to use. So the JavaScript API is fantastic for web application development. It's a great way to use embeddable links to be able to actually access into content directly. Great for use on intranets or for web application development. The REST API is great for maybe traditional applications and integrating in behind the scenes where you want to kind of be doing a whole load of calls back and forward and then surfacing the output to the end user. And the SOAP API is really, it's kind of our legacy API, legacy protocol that is there. It's really robust and provides a huge amount of capabilities for using Yellowfin and provides access to systems that are maybe not aware or capable of REST, which there's still quite a few old enterprise systems out there that could be ticking that box. So regardless of your customer, regardless of the use case, you can get up and start using Yellowfin very, very quickly here. So do visit the links on the pages if you download the documentation just to be able to get in and have a look at those. So access to the API is one thing, but how do I play with it? Well, we have a Docker all-in-one instance. That is a fantastic place to start. It provides pre-built canned reports, dashboards, presentations. It shows you what signals are. There's a lot of capability within there. Now, this is a great way to be able to test the features and the API of Yellowfin with some live content coming back. And then when you're ready, you can update or swap out the instance of Yellowfin with your own data, or even start pulling in or connecting to some of your own data sources and then exposing that through here as well and just seeing it all working. So regardless of what you want to do, this is a fantastic place to start just to test the connectivity and make sure that you can pull back a list of reports, that you can favourite a report, that you can show a report, and you can do single sign-on to specific content areas. You know, all these core functionality capabilities You can do all of that with the all-in-one instance. So the next thing you're probably going to ask is, well, I've got this Yellowfin instance now. I've got a report and I've got dashboards coming back into my main application. I'm integrating them in quite nicely. Can I make it look like my application? Well, yeah. White labeling Yellowfin is very, very powerful, and you've got full control here. There's a number of pages that you can override and change the complete look and feel of them. Probably the quickest way to get going, and what I'd recommend to start, is just to rebrand the login. So you can do that by updating the login page and making that look really pretty. The simplest thing to do is to replace your logo and update the style sheet with your own custom colours. Now, the way Yellowfin does this is there's a special folder for custom images and files. If you put your content into there, then Yellowfin will check there and go, oh, we've got one that matches what I need, I'm going to use that. If it's not there, it will use the main one that's within the Yellowfin installation. Now, that's quite a useful and pragmatic approach, because what it means is that if you do upgrades or you change anything in your system in the future, or as you do installations across multiple different locations, you can just copy that folder in and across, and everything will then start looking and behaving as if you branded it yourself already. So really, really flexible and easy to do. If you are doing huge number of deployments, you might want to go for a full white label, where we can even provide online documentation that you can download and host yourself, and provide full changing of that. We even go to the point of being able to rebrand the application name internally. So instead of having your application powered with Yellowfin, you can actually call it My Smart Reporting option or whatever, and actually change the name within Yellowfin. And we'll get back onto that in a moment when we look at the API. But before we get to the API, I just want to be ultra clear around some of the different use cases and the flexible architecture that you have here. One of the things that people often love about using Yellowfin is it provides a whole web reporting and management dashboard interface area that is hugely powerful and capable, and quite often what senior managers want access to from their applications, more so than the actual the application itself. So being able to embed in and use Yellowfin against your data, you provide out a whole Yellowfin client that can be embedded in straight away. Now, obviously when it comes to your core application at the moment, you might have native desktop applications or web applications that you've been building. What we can get to using the APIs is to actually start embedding content directly inside your application. Now, what this enables you to do is to kind of maintain and certify your existing stack, but using the interfaces to embed in, you can then start serving data from Yellowfin as well. Now, this could be linked to your existing database, or it could be linked to additional data sources that you're running. So, for example, if you had a marketing system and you had all the marketing data in here and the campaigns that you've built and run, you could potentially connect up in here to that data, but also to data from Google Analytics, and then bring the analytics data together with your data and then show that in the reports. So a really, really powerful way to bring in and merge in additional data sources as well, without having to touch and modify and update your core application. So really, really flexible, powerful architecture that allows you to do a number of different things. It also means if you've got other systems internally that you want to share your data into, then you can do that as well. And then you can start getting into even advanced capabilities like action buttons, where you can click an action button within a Yellowfin report, and that launches a URL to take you to somewhere else. And that allows you to start deeply integrating even into other systems inside your product and your application. So a huge amount of flexibility to be able to bring this user experience to your users wherever they are and whatever they're doing. So we understand now a little bit about the different types of API that we can use, how we can get an instance up and running. So it's time to get our hands onto the API, I guess. The one that I'm going to have a quick walk through here, in theory, is the REST API. Okay, so let's jump straight in. So one of the key things to understand is that the REST API is great, but there are times where you need to make a call, maybe to get a session token, which brings something back, and then you need to make a further call with that session token. Now, that's not always a possibility with some programming paradigms. So we do have some RPC, remote procedural call endpoints as well, that allow you to kind of do more of this in single calls. But the key concept here is that there's a number of different types of tokens. We're going to have a look at those tokens in a moment. Each token, when you call it, will provide, you'll have to provide a header, and this is part of the security for logging in. So the first part of that is the application name. Now the application name is whatever your application is called, whatever it shows as. And now typically this is Yellowfin, but that's a great variable just to set and build up with your application name. So Yellowfin is your first one. We then have a TS, which is a timestamp. Now this is the Unix epoch in milliseconds. Pretty straightforward call to get that. Most programming languages have a way to get that timestamp. Now what that makes sure is that your calling system and the server are pretty much in the same kind of date. It's regardless of time zone, obviously the Unix epoch, yeah, it's a really good one to be able to use here. We then also have a nonce. Now this nonce is just a random value. You can generate that on the client side. This is just to use with some session stuff in the future. But again, you just need to have a random one. You can just create a GUID, shove it in there. That's absolutely fine. We then have a token, which is the different type of security token. Now it can be a refresh token, it can be an access token, it can be a login token. Those different tokens are what you pass into the call to then get the data out. So as long as your token, your epoch, timestamp, and your nonce are there, and you've got the correct application ID, they're the key things that you need to be able to access into the API. So there's three different types of security tokens that the REST API uses. The first is a refresh token. Now the refresh token, a bit like an application token, once you've got one of those, it allows you to be able to call to get an access token to call the APIs. So creating a refresh token will give you an API, which is your secret key to basically be able to connect in. Now you need to have admin credentials to be able to create one of those. Once you've got your refresh token, you can store that away and use it multiple times. But with your refresh token, when you come to the application, you then want to get access to the API. Now the access tokens last by default for 20 minutes. So you pass your refresh token in and it identifies who you are. You then are able to provide back or get back an access token, and you can then use that access token to make calls to different APIs. Now, one of the things that you can do with an access token is request a login token. Now, a login token is a single-use token that allows you to call Yellowfin and pass in, you pass the login token as part of a URL to then actually log into Yellowfin. So as a user, you can say, hey, here's my access token. Please can I have a login token so I can log in and show you this dashboard? And the answer will then be, yeah, here's your login token. And then you build up your login token with where you want to call, and off you go. Brilliant. So this is the workflow for those single sign-ons. Let's say you have the refresh token, access token to get a login token. You can then use that login token to call, and you pass it into the URL, just like you see here on the screen. The RPC, you actually have to provide the admin credentials and the user credentials to then be able to get the token that you want back. Or SOAP has different method that you call login user or login user no password if you don't have the user's password, and that allows you to then create a login token for that specific user. So this login no password is a concept that can work across the RPC. You have to set parameters to say that you're going to allow for logging in without a password. And also on the REST side, you can set up a system setting to allow your refresh tokens to call and request an access token for a user on their behalf. Now this is really important where you have, for example, user security embedded into your application, and you just want to have a single pass-through so it's seamless for the user to log in. If you want the user to actually log into Yellowfin, then you can just get them to log in with their own credentials. You can create a user that matches the username, for example, in the host application, but then get them to actually use a specific password that is embedded into Yellowfin for logging into the content. But again, up to you which way you want to do this and to get that working. But these are very, very powerful and quick ways to get up and running with the API and provide a bridge in to providing that content back. So calling the Yellowfin server with the login and the login web server ID and the token allows you to then log directly into Yellowfin. You can also log in and identify specific entry points if it's a dashboard or a specific report or where you want to go. You can do that within the the login URL. But I say very, very quick and easy to get up and get going. Now, if you're using single sign-on, there's also a SAML bridge that includes that support for Active Directory. So lots of different ways to get up and get going. Okay, so now you've kind of seen an idea about where to get the Docker image from. There's the link here for the Embedded Analytics overview video that we showed at the top. There's also a couple of example videos of integrations that have been done, one with the Delphi programming language, and the other one shows how to get the Docker instance up and running and get that all set up and ready ahead of time for use in the Delphi application. Again, regardless of whichever language you're using, that's a great video to see to get Docker up and running. Now, there's also a few additional resources that I'll highlight to you. Obviously, the Yellowfin YouTube channel, there's great content there. The Yellowfin wiki online, huge amount of content there. But also we have quite an active community on the Yellowfin site where you can log in and you can ask questions and get feedback from people there around the world. The final thing I'd say is Yellowfin University. Yellowfin University is a set of online courses and videos and documents to help you get up and running. Now, if you've got time and you want to learn Yellowfin deeply, this is a great place to go. And from there, you can build your own dashboards and set up your data sources, and everything you want to do with Yellowfin, you can learn through the Yellowfin University. Now, also, if you don't have a lot of time, but you want to get going with this, then I'd highly recommend talking to one of the reps about a Kickstart program, which enables you to partner up with a Yellowfin expert and for them to be able to get you up and going, help you with all the kind of the initial onboarding and getting started. Now, that said, Yellowfin is pretty super easy to get up and going with, but some of the more complex things and more around kind of workflow understandings and to gain the best out of having analytics within your workflow, those things it's always worth having an extra mind to pick on. So definitely use community, have a look at the Yellowfin University, and also consider maybe a Kickstart program if you want to get to market very, very quickly. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining us. As I say, please feel free to contact the Yellowfin sales team if you'd like to request a developer license to get up and going. And we look forward to hearing some of the amazing stuff that you're up to, joining millions of end users around the world and thousands and tens of thousands of organisations who use Yellowfin already today. So happy coding.